I Want to Jump Like Dee Dee, with me, Giles Sibbald, is the music podcast that does music a bit differently. I'm talking to some incredible musicians, DJs and producers about how they use an experimental mindset to fuel their own creativity, pursue new challenges, overcome fears, bounce back from mistakes. Okay, so today we're going over to New York. Well, I'm not as usual, but my guest is sort of holed up there. And today we're kind of like all about the, kind of surf, garage, or garage, as some people say. I'm not allowed to say garage sometimes. Kind of like reverb, soaked rock and roll guitars. My guest today, who I'm delighted is here, is really at the kind of the center of that scene. Kind of like retro rock and roll. She's also a DJ, blogger, and a fashion icon as well, I'd say. Her band, High Waisted, brought out a couple of albums, 2016's On Ludlow, and then last year, Sick of Saying Sorry. And I'm delighted to welcome Jessica Louise Dye to our show today.
Good morning, good afternoon, hello.
Hey, welcome, thanks very much. So I first, it was really on Ludlow that I sort of first got into High Waisted. And for me, kind of like I'm just like a real sucker for those sort of catchy major minor chord changes, the kind of the surf feel, the sort of Dick Dale adventures, that kind of stuff. And for me it's kind of like the stuff that when you walk in and you hear it on a jukebox, it's just like, wow, amazing. And I read a quote of yours which I thought was brilliant. I know this is where it comes back to haunt you, right?
Oh no.
It was, I wanted to create tunes for other people with limited dancing skills. Which I thought was just brilliant. I thought that's kind of made for me.
Oh no, that's so true though, because I realized like at a very young age, going to shows, like I just didn't, or even, like in uni and college going out with friends, I don't know how to dance to like modern pop music, It's all the awkward movements. I'm like, I'm good at like the twist kind of dance. So yeah, I wanted to write music people could twist to.
Yeah. What were the kind of the the sort of the influences in your life for getting into that sort of music?
It's funny is I grew up listening to a lot of like classic rock, 80s rock, and then just sort of like what I call grandparents music, which for my generation was like Frank Sinatra and like all the crooners, a lot of Sam Cooke. So I think it was just like a beautiful mashup. And like, I'm really happy you mentioned the major minor chord transitions, because that's like, it's kind of a trope. And I think it's like a little cringe to do all the time, but I just love it. And it works every time, like the Beatles did it, the Zombies, everyone's done it. It just, I want to make music that like, even if you don't know my band, you like walk into the club and you hear it, you're like, oh, cool, let's check this out. Accessible.
Yeah. It's funny because I mean you sort of carried that on that that sort of feel, if you will, that kind of like approach in your second album, but a really different feel.
Yeah, no, it is very different. I will say the first record is sort of like you are at the after party, and you're having a really good time, and the second record is sort of like the quiet, very long train ride home at dawn from the after party. It's a little bit more introspective, like still like upbeat melodies but with very sad lyrics.
No, absolutely. Yeah. It kind of like sort of felt to me it was definitely kind of more introspective, almost like a desire or kind of nostalgia for more, sort of unity, more certain times. I mean, I guess that maybe that's the time that we were living in when it was written.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like On Ludlow was sort of born from, I mean, it's named after the street where my bandmates and I all met, and where we would run around with friends every night till like late hours. And Sick of Saying Sorry was sort of like, I guess, the goodbye to that era, of my 20s. So yeah, it is a little sad, and it's funny now, like, because it's been out, it'll be out a year in May, and I've had so much time in lockdown to think about this record and what the next record's going to be like. I think it's maybe a little bit more sad than I meant for it to be, but that's just what I wrote, and that's what happened. So Yeah.
sort of what you felt at the time. I mean, that's the, that's the kind of the way to do it, isn't it? When you're feeling it at the moment, you can look back on it. It's like, I remember that sort of quote from sort of Mandela. He basically kind of said, you only need to see how much you've changed by going back to a place that hasn't changed. So your kind of record stays the same. You look back at it and they think, okay, well, yeah, that's fine, but I've kind of moved on to, sort of something new now.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's definitely a record of nostalgia.
Yeah. So with it, like, kind of, as you're sort of growing up, your kind of mindset, how, what were the sort of the formative influences for, the kind of the mindset that you've got now?
I mean, I feel like my taste in music and my knowledge of music definitely grew exponentially between the two albums. I started listening to a lot of pop music, a lot of modern music because I was DJing more. And so it's, things that I never thought would hit my ears frequently were starting to be like a common occurrence. So I think just like, and in a weird way, like Taylor Swift and Beyonce and Ariana Grande, like were oddly influential for the last record we put out. Whereas the first record was like, my only knowledge of music was listening to like Roy Orbison and Dick, like you said, Dick Dale, The Ventures, tons of surf music. And I think like, even thinking like future speaking, I am very excited to get back to my roots for the third record and really do like a deeper dive of how to take the pop sensibilities I've learned from modern day music and then mesh them with really warm tones from like the 60s again.
Yeah. Has because you moved to New York in what, about 2008? What was it, 2008?
Yeah, like it off and on, like 2000. I think like officially 2010, but like off and on 2008.
Yeah, I mean, and kind of living there in that sort of environment, how has that changed you as a person?
Oh, I mean, it changed everything. I reinvented myself when I moved to New York. Like I was doing like a country alt folk cutesy band, the type of band that had like a trumpet and a glockenspiel. If you know the era, that was a thing. It was a thing. And I had like, I like revamped my whole everything, my look. Like I had like mousy brown hair and I was timid and shy before that. And I came to New York and I was like, that's it. Colored hair, going out, making friends, like like I can be whoever I want. I guess it's kind of like when kids they leave high school and they go to college and they're like, you can be anybody you want to be. I sort of had like an awakening in that sense. And I will say that New York City from that point on has been like the fifth member of my band. It's been like my biggest co-writer in everything that I've written. So yeah, it's impossible not to have New York be a part of your writing.
Yeah. It's interesting that, I kind of felt that sometimes in my life, that you kind of grow up with a sort of particular, I don't know, kind of like identity that you either just go with the flow and that's kind of what you are, or you're sort of influenced by your kind of kids that you hang out with, your parents, friends, whatever, relatives, whatever. And I kind of felt there was something inside of me wanting to kind of get out. Something that I didn't feel either kind of confident enough to sort of let rip and do something kind of different. And it's funny that those kind of constrictions sometimes that you live with, and then a change of environment like you had, that really was the thing that that either made you or allowed you to change.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, like not to like continue to juxtapose the two records, but Sick of Saying Sorry was definitely my first time within writing of like letting go of a lot of those insecurities and barriers and being way more honest than I was comfortable with, which I'm really happy I did it now looking back, but at the time I was definitely nervous about it.
Yeah, I mean, I love that idea of kind of evolving. I know some bands sort of get get some stick from their sort of fans by changing, so it's not like the same record and all that sort of stuff, And I mean, I think there's like sort of certain bands where they're not allowed to change, and the Ramones were one of them. They were my kind of first love, and they should never change. But some bands, like Evolution, that's kind of what helps keep you alive and grow, right?
Yeah, and I mean, as a writer, I think it's really hard to not have that happen, because
Yeah.
you know, you write in one style for so long, and like there's only so much you can say in that style, I think. And I'm also guilty as a listener. Like there's a couple bands that put out releases this year that I was just like, boo, I hate it. Doesn't sound anything like the first record. I hate it.
Oh,
I'm like,
yeah, we've all done it.
I know. And I'm like, Jess, come on. Like you literally just did the same thing. Like be nice. Be nice. So I have to like remind myself too, not to be too critical, because it's still art, you know. And I think if you really love the artist, like you should be, I think there's always something to find that you'll like in their music if you really like the artist.
So I mean, where do you sort of find your, you know, kind of inspiration for your creativity? You know, if you're, you know, given, you know, kind of where you are now, and you know, in terms of your, you know, what's happening around us, your mindset, you know, how do you find the inspiration?
Sometimes it's like impossible to shut it out. Like it's almost like I'm schizophrenic, and it's just screaming at me from like different corners of the room. Like for example, I already just wrote a song this morning. I painted my nails this like amazing yellow nail polish, and I ended up writing a song about the nail polish because I thought the name was kind of cute. The name was like, it was you know, the espadrille. I was like, that's an amazing line. So I mean, so it's just like, maybe that's just me being like really quirky, and because it's quarantine and there's not as much going on to stimulate my mind with, like, I'm not really having much drama right now, you know, like there's no boy drama. There's no girls to fight with. There's no gossip from the scene. So I just don't have that much to like nitpick and think about. I mean, On Ludlow was actually written about a ton of just experiences in New York City. And the same with Sick of Saying Sorry. It's again, like that New York City character. So I think like the record I'm writing right now is going to be like almost like a little lonely, because New York's like calling in, you know. New York didn't show up. It's just like it's on Zoom with me.
So what's happening there now? What's happening in New York now? I heard that you know, kind of restaurants might be opening again. Is that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like an ever-changing situation.
I mean, yeah, and I've been so crazy locked down that even if they reopen, it doesn't really matter for my brain. It does matter for some of my friends that work in the restaurants, but we'll see. I mean, I'm like, and I feel like everybody has fatigue of talking about it, you know. So I don't want to dive on it too much, but I will say that it'll be a year pretty soon, which is crazy for us. And 2020 took so much for me, and I have forgiven it. It took me a year to forgive the year for being so mean to me, and we won't be friends anymore, and that's okay. Like we're parting ways cordially. But in a weird way, it's been like the best year of my life. I've gotten to do things that I would not have taken the time to do. I've been a lot nicer to myself and my health, and I also just like cleared house. You know, there's so many relationships and habits that I don't have anymore that probably would have taken me another decade to figure out were bad for me. So yeah. So
yeah, I mean, it's a kind of like funny one again with relationships. I think I've sort of found, you know, the lot of people who's, you know, kind of relationships, you know, sort of friend relationships as well as kind of, you know, sort of intimate relationships kind of change as, you know, as you, I don't know, it seems that I'm like, you know, kind of like when I was a kid, you know, my parents almost had, you know, kind of friends for life. You know, they would sort of stay with them forever. I think, you know, things are, I mean, I obviously, like, people move around a lot more, and there's different ways of kind of bringing in relationships and stuff like that. But they seem to be more kind of up and down, and we have many more different types of relationships.
Yeah, and I think that is generational too, and I see it even with like the man I'm dating. Like he has friends. He's like 15 years older than me, but he has friends that he's had for like 25 years. You know, and it's just like, and I think about that, and I'm like, oh well, because think about the way that our relationships with each other are now. Like we are always a text away. You know, it's just like it's so easy to be non-committal. You know, like you really
is.
don't have to put that much effort into relationships and still have them be like, okay, you know, air quotes. But and you know, whereas like my partner who's just 15 years older, he was, you know, he grew up in an era where no cell phone. So it's like, if you wanted to meet somebody, you had to make a plan, commit to the plan, show up, do the plan. And it's like the biggest frustration with this year, because everything is sort of reverting back to that. Like, you have to be so careful about how you're going to see somebody, when you're going to see them. Like, in a way, it's kind of like giving a little bit of breath of life of that like 90s mentality into my relationships now, because everything has to be so overly discussed. So yeah, I think like in a way, this year gave me two of the closest female relationships I've ever had in my life, because we had to commit to each other, and it had to be full of so much communication. It was like we were having to give each other STD reports every week, basically. Like, who did you see? Who were you with? Were you masked? Who did you sleep? You know, like, you slept with that guy? Okay, I can't see you for 2 weeks now. So, and that's, you know, that's what it is though. Like, that's what we went through. And I honestly I don't know how I would have made it through this whole year without those two girls, you know? And so, but I thought we were really close before the pandemic, and I was just really delusional about what a friendship should be, what it can be, and what I was allowing it to be.
I mean, and like your band, you know, everything you've done, it's always been, you know, kind of DIY.
Yeah,
you've kind of done things yourself, and again, something that I sort of picked up, and I think you've done things without a label as well.
Yes, always.
And again, something that you said, which I really liked, and because I think this kind of shows like a really, you know, kind of strong, kind of courageous sort of attitude, was basically, you know, when you find a label that is kind of like in line with your ethos, and this was the bit that got me. You said you would be happy to have them join our team.
Yeah.
Which means it's, you know, most people would say we'd be happy to go join them, and it's like no, you're coming to join us.
Yeah, no, what have they done?
Brilliant.
This is my world. Like, I built this. All these records are autobiographical. Like, this is literally, my brand is me. So no, I'm not just gonna sell that to somebody. That's not how this should work. And maybe that's great for other bands, but that's not how I'm doing my life as a musician.
Yeah. What I mean, doing it kind of DIY, what's that again? What's that sort of taught you? What you know, over the years?
It's taught me that like I could probably get what I call a real person job, because I am skilled in so many different areas of business now. It's definitely taught me a lot of self-discipline, patience, and just like work ethic, honestly, because okay, I have a couple of things to say about this. Number one, I always refer to, you do all this work, right? And you don't get any positive reinforcement for it. Like, that's the hardest thing about being in like DIY, is that you will do 100 hours of work and then nothing for months. And then all of a sudden, it always happens like this. This is consistent over the years. I'll have one day where like 10 amazing things all fall into my, like, onto my lap at the same time. And I call those domino days.
Yeah.
Those are the days where you've been diligently stacking all the hard work for months, and then all of a sudden one little boop and all the dominoes fall down and you're having the best day of your life. So the hard part with like, you know, and this is just anybody who's self-employed, I think this applies to all of us. The hard part is remembering on the 6 month, 1 year, 2 year stretch where there have not been any domino days, you have to remember that it's coming. Like, it can't not come. It has to come. If you're doing the hard work, it will eventually come. So I think just like staying positive during those breaks are very difficult. And secondly, follow every lead. This is something that I've been preaching. I know my bandmates are probably sick of hearing me say it, but like we follow, even if the offer looks absolutely awful, we will still follow it. You know, like I don't mind getting no's. Like, getting rejected is great. Like, give me a no. I would much rather have a no, or like, we hate it, or you suck, like, stop making music. I'd rather have that than not an answer at all. And I also feel like I sleep at night better because I know that I sent 1,000 emails. You know, I did everything my tiny small body was able to do to make this happen. And if that wasn't enough, then it wasn't enough. Like I can go to bed like with a clear conscience. So that to me is what DIY is. It's staying positive while doing tons of hard work and following every single lead you have and making your own leads.
It's the rejection thing is kind of interesting. I mean, I was employed until a few years ago, and I then sort of became self-employed, and hence I'm doing this kind of stuff now, which is fantastic. So you just get, well, you know what it's like. The sort of the rejection thing, but you know, getting a no versus getting nothing. You know, when you're kind of employed, you're used to getting something. You know, whether it's kind of real praise or you fucked up. You know, this you know, blah blah blah. But it's something that you can then grab hold of. But getting nothing,
it's the worst.
It's kind of hard. Yeah,
it's the worst. It's literally the worst. It's like you do so much effort. You know, you pitch so much. You ask. You know, I mean, that's the other thing too. I think for people who are self-employed and musicians and artists in general is that you're constantly selling something. You know, I'm not really a musician. I'm a salesperson. If you think about it, at the end of the day, like my art is my product. And that bums me out. That's a whole other conversation. But yeah, the not getting anything is hard. But then, you know what, but to relate back to Domino days, I have had some weird things happen where it's like, I didn't hear anything, but then that person like remembered me, went on to a new job, and then something amazing happened for me, you know, as a result. So like, you just don't know. Like,
I mean, a lot of, on rejections, I mean, a lot of people really hate rejection.
Oh, I love it. Because it means that
you thrive off it.
Yeah, because it means that the person like cared enough to take the time to respond with a no. And it also means that they like listened to it. Okay. So like at least it was listened to. That's cool. Yeah. Somebody consumed my art. And then 3, like I created an emotional reaction for them.
Yeah.
Whether it was good or bad, like my art still evoked something within them. So like, yeah, heck yeah, I'll take that any day.
I think that's a really good way to look at it, isn't it? You know, that it kind of brings you know, if you've got the fear, you're thinking, okay, well, should I, you know, ask this person, you know, if they want to be part of this, you know, what's the response going to be? I mean, I kind of like had this a little bit, you know, when I was sort of setting up these chats.
Oh no, just ask everybody.
Yeah, you just think, you know, okay, well, I can't. I mean, they might say no, and then you know, I'll be depressed and stuff, you know, and you just get, but you're right, you just kind of get over it. I think that, but you know, getting over that hurdle sometimes is not always easy. I mean, I guess it depends on your personality as well, doesn't it? You know, kind of, you know, when I was a kid, you know, I was like, and I still am, but you know, really like really shy, you know, and you know, just didn't want to kind of upset things and that kind of stuff. And some of that sort of stays with you. So when, you know, you're sort of faced with this, okay, when we're going to get rejected, you know, it's like, okay, that's an obstacle that you have to work to get over.
Yeah, absolutely. But I also think that like you can reinvent yourself at any point. Like I said, when I came to New York, I just decided to stop being insecure. I just wouldn't let myself. I was like, you're playing a new character, and this new character of Jess is like the coolest girl in the world. No one even knows how cool you are yet. And it took a while to like start to believe that, you know, but eventually, you know, like with any habit, you start to believe your own bullshit in a way. Sorry, I don't know if we can curse or not, but you start to believe your own crap. And like, I just started to believe that I was cool and that I could do anything I wanted and I could achieve anything I wanted. And maybe that's arrogant as crap, but like it worked. So
you've got to do it. That's like, you know, kind of self-belief.
Yeah, exactly. It's just believing yourself.
Yeah. With you, like, because you also DJ as well.
I do. Yep.
So how does that differ to the band in terms of your approach, or doesn't it? Is it?
I mean, I still think of it as being a high level performance. And it's a lot more intimate in a way. Because it's like, you know, with my band, I never perform solo. That's like, it's not for me. So DJing, you know, there's no one to like pull the like ripcord to if you need help, you know, or if you're just bombing, it's like, it's just you. There's no one that can help you. So that's sort of terrifying. And also like, I think it's intimate in the way that like, you know, I was doing club nights 3 nights a week, like, you know, like big clubs where it's like bottle service and people down the block till, you know, 1 a.m. trying to get in.
Yeah.
And I would just remind myself sometimes, like looking out over the crowd, like, oh my God, like there's hundreds of people in here having like the best Friday night ever. Like that couple's making out, like all that, there's someone's birthday, like all these people are having these memories and they don't even realize like how much thought that I'm putting into like building up their emotions with music right now. They're just, it's just wallpaper to them, you know, like it's just like, I don't know. So I just think it's like really powerful, but it's sort of like this secret power.
Yeah.
Maybe all DJs think this, and maybe I'm just like romanticizing it a little bit too much. But I think as much as I miss music, I can still do music in a way. You know, like I can still put music out, but the DJing live feeling I miss a lot.
Have you ever bombed?
Oh yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, absolutely. I've had tech issues. Like early on, I didn't know what the crap I was doing. Like cause I basically just lied. Like I did that overconfident thing that I was talking about. And somebody was like, oh, can you DJ? I was like, yeah, absolutely. I would love to. And then I was like, hey, does anybody know how to DJ? You know, like had to
I'm
just
just
learn.
Gonna go for it and then sort of sort all the other stuff, like how to do it later.
Yeah, no, I don't know if I would recommend that, but it worked. So, and it, you know, sometimes you have to like, this is another thing I always say, like you need to like set an end date or a goal or a box, you know, and sometimes for bands that's like book a show. Is that way you have a deadline to get all your songs ready, you know, because otherwise you're just like sort of practicing and there's no pressure, you know, and the same thing like with DJing, it's like I just started booking gigs and got scared of making a fool of myself and finally like got it together. So yeah, I will say like the one thing I've probably worked on the most during quarantine has been DJing because I can do it at home.
Okay. Yeah.
And I've released like a bunch of just free mixes and I've been doing like free Sunday parties on Twitch. So it's been something, you know, it's like a lot more tech oriented than I would ever have wanted to explore, but it's, again, I like kind of see that as being like an art, like an expression, you know, I'm like, oh, I've learned how to like make all these computers talk to each other. That's cool. Like,
yeah. So literally you can kind of like sort of throw together stuff that you just want to, you just think, okay, well, I'm just going to give it a try, just try it out and see how it goes, which is great.
Yeah. I mean, because worst case, you're just terrible. Like,
yeah.
Okay.
You can bomb silently in your own room.
Exactly. My poor cat has seen many a bad shows and bad songwriting too, you know, like that's the only way to get good at something is to practice.
Is to practice and sort of take the good times and the bad times, right? And
absolutely.
And the successes.
Well, when you start things too, I feel like you know, if you have really good taste, it's going to take a lot of time for your talent to meet your taste. And I think like the best skill you can have as an artist is understanding when what you're putting out isn't as good as what your taste is. Yeah. And continuing to tweak it until it gets there.
Mm-hmm. What about collaborations? Because you played bass with How Tragic as well.
Yeah. Oh, I love them. Yeah. How
They're
Tragic.
Great. I like their stuff.
Yeah, Paige she's amazing. She's actually, we've gotten really close. We were sort of friends over the years and because her best buddy was playing in High Waisted for a while and she was like, I want to have a band too. And she just did it. So I'm really proud of her and I'm really proud to be playing with her. But it's how tragic that our first show is supposed to be in April of 2020. Oh, yeah.
That's the sort of stuff that you just can't make up.
No, you really can't. You can't. No, it's so funny. Yeah, no, I really didn't play bass before that. So again, I was just like, yeah, I could play bass. and now I'm like actually pretty good at bass. So
and she's like, no, you can't. You're gonna have to learn.
No, she believed me. She was just like, yeah, she's like, I know you. You'll figure it out. So now I'm a pretty badass bassist. Yeah, that's good. And I have another project too that'll be coming out this summer. Flamingo Disco that is like super fun that I don't even know what I'm playing. I'm probably playing synth in that band.
Wow.
Do I know how to play synth? Absolutely not. Am I learning right now? Yes, I am. Why not?
That's brilliant. What sort of genre is is that?
It's like, it's gonna be like synth rock pop.
Okay.
Like kind of throwback to like the early 2000s indie pop.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fun.
Is that a friend, another kind of friend, or is this like people that you've just sort of met in your?
Yeah, it's another friend. This guy Robbie that I've been kind of collaborating with, and yeah, we're doing great things. We're about to like work on some more writing together. So.
Yeah, because I mean it's interesting with kind of collaborations, because I think last year there were, I mean, probably because people were kind of, say forced to, but there were, because you kind of like, people have to stay in, there were a lot more collaborations last year and some really great ones as well. Mm-hmm. But I mean, how do you sort of approach them? Do you, again, this thing about sort of saying yes to opportunities, do you do that with collaborations, or do you sort of, are you a bit more careful with those?
I think it's like, I mean, in terms for like High Waisted, it's our songwriting process for the third record and even for the second record was pretty collaborative. So it kind of feels like that already. Like we sort of are like a true band that works on songs together. Yeah. So it's like we haven't really collaborated with other writers for our process. But I mean, I'm writing with a ton of people right now. But I was before lockdown. Like that's not new for me. I think it's just like, I don't know, it's really intimate. It's like dating. You really get to know somebody. On such a deeper level. I have like another like 5-song like super pop, I'll call it sad pop album that I'll be putting out this year that I started recording before COVID with a buddy of mine out of LA. So yeah, I don't know. I approach I love collaborations. I don't fear them. I think it always takes a little, like I said, it takes a little bit of time to like break the ice songwriting wise, because it is so intimate. But once you can speak each other's language and you sort of have like the exact same verbiage and terminology for things, then the process is just like, I don't know, it's really magical. Yeah. It's like dating.
Because I guess kind of, people love stories and, the authenticity of stories as well. And collaborations, there's that, okay, I know this person, but not that well, and that you kind of got a little bit of kind of jockeying around to kind of find your ground and stuff like that. But if you can do that, the potential is really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I will say, like, for the two projects, like How Tragic and Flamingo Disco, I thought I was close with these people, but like it was really through working on music together that we've gotten to be very, very close.
Very close,
so, yeah. And I think it's inevitable. I can't say that I've worked on music with anybody that I didn't feel closer to them afterwards. It's like sort of a lifelong bond.
Yeah. There's a lot of, I guess, sort of pressure now with social media, around.
Oh, really? I hadn't noticed.
Differentiating yourself and standing out and all that kind of stuff. You hadn't noticed.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of variations on a theme, right? Kind of. Go on. Okay, you got a view.
I mean, it's a necessary evil. It's I feel like because of quarantine I hate it right now, but and even before quarantine I hated it because it was constantly, it was bringing out thoughts in me that were just like not healthy. It was like triggering these emotions of like, why wasn't I invited to that, or why did that band get that award, or why did that band get this show? And I acknowledged that I was having this behavior, and I was like, that is gross, Jess. That's so gross and so negative, and you're not being supportive. Stop it. And I had to literally like sit myself down and like, give myself like a spanking, essentially. Like, don't act like that. That's mean. So now with everybody inside, it sort of like leveled the playing field again, because like nobody's doing anything.
Yeah.
Or they shouldn't be doing anything.
They shouldn't be.
So exactly.
Does
exactly.
it?
I don't know.
Go on.
I was just gonna say, like, the other thing is, it's just like, I'm not 22 anymore, you know? I can't, like, I'm 35 years old. Like, I'm an adult female musician now. It's just like, I crossed into like a new genre of being a woman in music. So it's like, I'm not gonna like parade around on Instagram in my bikini anymore. I'm going to the gym. We'll see what happens. Okay, I'm working on it.
Do you kind of take breaks from it? Do you have your sort of social media breaks?
I mean, I can't technically. That's the thing. Like, it's so messed up the way it's built. Like, if you're not posting the XX stuff every day, then your visibility goes down, and that's like the worst thing that can happen to you as a brand, as a band. I will say, like, I've definitely, like our record came out in May, and then all the amazing and but also horrifying things with the Black Lives Matter started like the week after our record came out, and I just pulled the plug on everything. I was like, right now is not the time for a white, middle class band to be promoting a stupid record on social media right now. Like, this is a space for sharing information and sharing views and helping, and like, we need to shut up. So I actually just like halted all of our PR campaigns, all of our promo, and like, I mean, you can see it, like our Instagram, everything just sort of went hush, and all of a sudden it became like, this is where the protests are today. This is where it's safe to like, meet here. Like, here's the information that you need to know if you're participating. That sort of like took over our social media platforms for the summer. And, at the end of summer, I sort of have been getting back into it a little bit, but definitely not like we were this time last year. So, and I hope, I mean, I don't hope, a lot of the bands that I respect did the exact same thing. To the bands and artists that didn't, like, bummer, you missed out on like a really wonderful opportunity to do something great for your community, and you didn't. So like, shame. It's a shame that like you missed out on that.
I mean, in sort of one respect, I completely agree with you. One thing that I did notice that happened was that there seems to be in certain elements of the kind of industry, there is much more kind of cohesion and togetherness of artists. Which I think is just really sort of nice to see that, that kind of recognition that people have been struggling, this year. And I mean, I've noticed like here in the UK, there's a massive kind of push against the big labels, for their role in kind of like how much artists are getting paid and stuff like that. And I think that's been a real kind of like almost like kind of glue that's brought a lot of artists together to kind of collectively sort of support themselves.
It's definitely the year that the curtain was sort of pulled back a little bit, when you saw big labels that a lot of people loved, like Burger Records, just completely fall apart. You saw a lot of artists sort of go through some changes and have to step down from their public public figure. But I think it'll be really interesting to see what things are like after all of this, because I think what this year has proven is that you could do, I mean, at least a lot of other bands that never knew this before, like, but you can do so much of this on your own. Like, you don't need help. And I think a lot of the labels realize that like they aren't making the money like they used to, and they don't have the funds to put into bands and invest in bands like they used to. So I think you just won't really see labels signing as many artists as they once were either. I don't know. It's all, that's like the whole Spotify, the way that's changed everything is like another hour-long discussion we don't need to get into.
Absolutely right.
But like, Lord Spotify, I've made my prayers to him today, so hopefully my plays are good. We'll see.
With your ideas, the kind of like your kind of creativity, your writing, kind of when you get some ideas that kind of don't work. When
or if, what do I do with them?
What do you feel? How does it make you feel when you kind of like you've been working on something and then you just think, do you know what, this is not doing it?
I mean, I'm literally going through that right now. you just have to try again. Like again, it's gonna happen, you know. And I say this all the time. It's like what you get like 1 in 100. Imagine you're like trying to take a cute selfie, you know, and you end up taking like 10, and 9 of them are terrible. Like you look like an ogre. And then there's that one where you're like, oh, I'm so cute. So it's like the same with songwriting. Like I literally everything I've written this week, I've just been like, I suck. I'm terrible, you know. But then in a month I might go back and like in one of those I suck moments, I'll be like, oh, there was actually a really cool bridge in that part, and oh, that one had a good, you know, a good riff, and then next thing you know, it's like the best song I've ever written. So yeah, and that's happened so much where, you know, things in the throwaway pile end up things on the kitchen floor end up getting picked back up.
Yeah. Do you? I mean, do you at any stage sort of feel yourself playing it safe? Or you like every, you know, at every opportunity you're kind of looking to kind of, I don't know, change something or kind of create something unique?
I mean, I
know you probably don't, sorry, I was going to say, I know you probably don't aim to go out there and do that, but do you think that's kind of how you approach things?
Not necessarily save. I mean, I think like I think of myself as a songwriter first, and I really believe that like you have to do what the song wants, and if the song wants to be like, you know, a crazy disco song, then that's what it's going to be, and maybe it's something I can't use for High-Waisted specifically, you know. And I think that's why a lot of songwriters have so many different projects, because they're listening to like what the rules the song is dictating to you. So yeah, I don't know if I'm not being edgy. I'm also writing things I really like, and what if what I like is just like basic, you know? I can't be in trouble for just liking what I like. Some people really like their favorite soda is Sprite, and they really like, you know, plain potato chips, and their favorite color is gray. That's okay. Like that's a taste too. And there's people that will also cater to that. So I don't know. I don't have a great answer for that. I don't think I'm being safe.
No.
No, I don't think so.
I guess I mean, just, you know, for, you know, as people get older, you know, I felt it in it. Well, I felt it for some time, and then it's kind of like diminished a little bit. But you know, as you, I guess it depends on your environment, what you know, what job you're doing, and things like that. Sometimes, you know, as you get older, your appetite for taking risks kind of like reduces.
Yeah.
And but then something can sort of happen. I mean, I'm doing stuff now that you know, I don't know, 7-8 years ago, I thought, no, I'm never going to do that. No way, absolutely no way. Almost like you know, I'm kind of like too scared to do it, you know. But then, you know, like you say, you know, so something happens, and it's stuff that you like, and you just get something that pushes you into it, and it's almost like, there you go ahead and just do it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm ever going to get less courageous, and I don't think my blind optimism and belief in myself is ever going to diminish. Like, I think that literally I can learn anything if I decide to. Yeah. So maybe that's foolish, but yeah, I think I'm gonna keep trying new crazy stuff just because I can and I want to. And I don't think that like I think risk and comfort are completely different things. Mm-hmm. So I love confrontation. I find comfort in confrontation, for example. But is that necessary? Could that be a risky behavior? Totally. So yeah, I don't know. I'm just gonna keep writing badass songs. You know, maybe I won't go on tour as much as I once did because I'm favoring comfort. You know, the risk of touring and playing, you know, to 10 people every night for 6 weeks in a van and, you know, going broke over it is less appealing to me now than it was at 22. But yeah, but I don't think choosing comfort should diminish my ability to like be daring.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Are you still writing, as in, you know, kind of blog writing?
Not for the public.
No.
For me, I talk so much shit to myself every day, but I realize that it doesn't need to be like, you know, an open forum. Nobody else needs.
It's like, yeah, you don't need to see this.
No, it's for me. It's for me these days.
Yeah. If you're gonna I mean, just to sort of finish off, if you're going to give kind of like, a piece of advice to, to anybody who's listening and watching, that they kind of feel that, they want to make some change in their life. They want to kind of like, burst out of their identity. And there's something kind of stopping them inside. What could you say to them?
I guess just like make sure that the change you want to make is actually the change you want to make. Because if it's causing you grief and like hesitate, if there's so much hesitation to make that change, then maybe that's not the right decision for you. And secondly, don't listen to all of the older men in authority in your life, because those are like the biggest mistakes I've made in the music career, is believing some older white dude that asserted their authority over me, and I felt like, oh, I should trust this person, and I should have just gone with my gut. Like at the end of the day, like every major mishap or like setback I've had in my career was always because I didn't trust my own stomach, essentially. And that sounds so simple and like so stupid, and I'm sure that if I could go back in time and like tell young Jess that, I would be like, whatever, that's dumb. But for real, I do think that like if there's something you want, if there's a goal you want, break it down into tiny steps, map it out, write it down every day, think about it. Like you should be getting up before your alarm because you're excited to work on it. And if you aren't, then maybe that's not the right path for you, and then you should reassess. Like when I wanted to learn guitar, I was waking up literally hours before I had to go to my awful desk job, and I would sit in like this freezing cold squat that I was like living in at the time with no heat, and I would like run scales until my fingers were feeling like they were gonna fall off. And I was never happier in my life doing that. And even now with like DJing, I end up staying up way too late because I'm just having so much fun with it. So yeah, find something that you lose yourself in, and like you literally can't think about doing anything else in the world except for that thing, and then go for that. And if it doesn't give you those feelings, then thank you, next. Like move on to the next passion.
I think you're right, with the, about the, about all of that, and the, the gut instinct is, I rely a lot on my gut instinct now, more so now than I used to do. There's something that inside you just says this is right or wrong, and I'm a big believer in just sort of in going with that. The rest will sort of take care of itself.
Totally. And if you're still super unsure, like just call me. We can talk.
Yeah.
I'll help you get there. Like I love to talk. Call me. We will work through it. I'm free. Just call me.
Brilliant, Jess. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Wonderful to talk to you, and thanks for all your insights and stories. It's been brilliant.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right, Jess. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
See you soon. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the show, and I really hope that you enjoyed it and that you'll tune in for the next episode. In the meantime, it would be really awesome if you could rate and review the show, and also share it with any friends who you think might enjoy it.